it's our Vidulakarat televisions. Now it's a wonderful another day that on our international scholars associations, especially they being intellectuals. So we are privileged to have today Dr. Haywood from the Newcastle University. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Manoj, how are you?
How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Now, now with the Donald Trump's case, Haywood is very important for us to how we can observe, how we can explore these things. Chris, what's the current nature of masculinity studies?
Across the world?
Yeah.
Well, the current nature of masculinity studies across the world, it's a bit of a mixed picture because we look at South Asia and there is so much work going on in masculinity studies, looking at men and boys in various arenas such as education, in work, in leisure, and there's so much going on and it's thriving. Yeah, it's a very fertile ground, intellectually fertile ground. However, in other places, such as South America, in the USA, in Hungary, you see governments viewing gender and sexuality studies, including critical masculinity studies, as a problem, as an issue, that it's a dangerous kind of study.
Oh.
Yeah?
You say it's dangerous. Gender masculinity studies has been a facet of dangerous field of studies. Why that in this immediate occurrence?
Because gender and masculinity studies deconstruct our common sense.
Oh.
So common sense often means ensuring that inequalities and privilege go unquestioned. So critical masculinity studies can come in and say, what is going on? It can start to question what the common sense views are. And when you start to unpack common sense, you can see it's made up where some people are privileged and other people are unprivileged. They lack that privilege. And so what you're doing is saying, hey, there's a problem here. And those with privilege, they don't like it. Yeah? So they say, oh, we've got to be careful of gender and masculinity studies.
Chris gave a very passionate idea about, the analysis of why some people hate speech in this kind of research, as well as interrogating and questioning the constructed values in the society. When it comes to the global South, Chris, still people think and believe that the science is what they have been taught by the colonial doctrines and the theories. For an example, with the Donald Trump recent statement, we expect only two genders, male and female. This has given a much unfortunate situation to the Sri Lankan young activists. Recently they told, even then walk through the streets or so, the people, the state president, these people don't have chance for you. Likewise, this Trump's statement through this, I see in the ground level, people are still facing some fear and shames. How this relate with the academic research that you are engaging in the global North? I'm talking about the global South, but I'm interested, I'm afraid how this Donald Trump's statement interplay with the global North academia.
Well, I think Donald Trump has been doing a number of things to academia. He's been withdrawing funding from research that's taking place on gender and sexuality, and also critical race studies. So the funding for social justice programs has been removed immediately. So you have people in universities saying, I can't do any more work because I just don't have the funding. So the impact has been immediate. And it sets a trend, a way of understanding that only certain kinds of research are acceptable. And research that maintains the status quo, the traditions, becomes the research that is acceptable. And with those traditions is the stability and sustainability of privilege. So once you start to question privilege and different kinds of research, then you start to become a problem. And that's what's happened.
Interesting. Now, you see that what happened to the academic, even we learn lots of very decent standard academic guidelines from a country like States or UK. With the Donald Trump's case of this hate speech has a severe interplay or effect badly affected to even in the academic research like sexuality, gender, and these things. Chris, don't you believe that these things, these statements are not isolated? They have lots of complicated other networks through the economics, politics, conglomerative agencies like, because you know that Elon Musk also through the digital industries and entrepreneurships are keenly connected with this kind of, we'll say the very marginalized politicians. I mean, by marginalized mean the nationally, religiously, still maintaining their hegemony over there.
Yeah, I think there's something going on where you have a group of men in the USA dominating and promoting a particular way of seeing gender and masculinity across the world. Yeah, so it's an intellectual colonialism that's taking place here. So maybe in the past you would have some kind of infrastructural kind of colonialism. Now you have the colonialism of ideas. This is what men and women should be doing. And it's coming from a white, Western, global North position. So the impact has been, it's troubling. It's troubling if it's reaching Sri Lanka and people start to think about gender masculinity in those ways. It becomes a problem.
It becomes a problem.
Because it ignores the context, the rich culture of Sri Lanka. The fabric of the norms and values of Sri Lankan society then become superimposed by this is what men should be doing, this is what women should be doing.
Yes.
And so that for me is a real problem.
This is a real coincidence that I see that likewise how the British colonizers, when they come to this country and while they are ruling this country, to how our local administrative cultural values are formed through the Victorian colonial ideas, and how now the Donald Trumps doing the same. I see some similarity that even after 500 years after. So as you lucidly said that academic colonialism, I will say lucidly that manufacturing academic poverty through this kind of politicized popular idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is very politicized.
Very politicized.
But also it's quite dangerous in the fact that it's giving young men this notion that it's okay to harm women and just to treat women as objects. It gives that justification because the Donald Trump kind of discourse is to say, oh, they're just, women are almost like objects to be used. Yeah. So I think if you're, and certainly Elon Musk is taking up that Jordan Peterson kind of view that suggests that, you know, women women are lesser than men. Underlying that kind of intellectual project. Yeah,
it's very interesting. While you raise that argument, I could say that men are also being objectified to some extent. The way how a politician like Donald Trump handled with some industries, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's an interesting thing there that, you know, it's not just women are being objectified. You're absolutely right. Yeah. It's men are as well. They're being framed and produced to act and be in a particular way. They're being pushed into being a particular kind of man. Oh, we must do that. In order to be a man, we must give hate speech online, or we must ignore the way in which other men and women talk. Let's just ignore them. Let's just call it false. Yeah. So there's a real strategy that's being used there. That's politicizing the way and objectifying what men are doing.
Yeah. Now, what I say is that while there are these politicized statements have a direct influence or badly affected to some of the academic research. Now, what the global South, our people are still believing that science is so colonial and so feudal. For an example, global South people still believing that science is numerical presentations and using pie charts and bar charts, and still you see these academic ideas amalgamate and support to that kind of a politicized statement. That's my argument. Don't you see that it's still this vacuum? They are using this vacuum politically.
You're absolutely right. They're using that vacuum politically. Right. And what they do, they put this pseudoscience there. They say they can map out men and women through IQ tests. Yeah, IQ tests are fundamentally flawed. Yeah, because they assume there's a natural ability, a natural giftedness, and it's not the case. Different gifts are valued differently across the world. So they use this pseudoscience about, oh, this is how men are and this is how women are.
Yeah.
And then and it's an easy kind of explanation. So we don't have to change anything. We don't have to change because the world is like that.
Yeah.
And once you start to appeal to that so-called natural order, then what the intervention should be to restore that natural order. Yeah. So it's interesting if it's natural, then why is it on? Why do we need interventions to support different causes? So you're absolutely right. There is a gap there. There is a kind of vacuum that can fill up and give some strange ideas about how the world is.
Which is very interesting because in a cultural, politically, mostly indecent societies like some societies in global south, these politicized hate speeches are given much prominence and dominance, while the academics are supporting through their analysis is still depending on the colonized and feudalized theoretical background. So that's why the new ideas like critical masculinity, gender, feminist studies gives a chance and liberation to those who are marginalized by politically or academically, that this gives a more emancipation. So therefore, in countries like us, we need to more understand and informative about these facts. So thank you, Chris Haywood, being a part with the Vidulakarat televisions as in our International Intellectual Exchange Program. We invite you once again to contribute to develop understanding of the masculinity and these studies, which gives people, especially the young people and other people, to tell who they are and the way they want to have a very good mental health and physical health. Ultimately, they will enjoy their life. Thank you, Chris Haywood, being part with our Vidulakarat television channel. As last time, we had a very interesting discussion about what is critical masculinity. In this program, we extended our analysis with the current geopolitical scenarios, such as how Donald Trump made their hate speech and what happening really in our global South societies like LGBT activists or the young men's liberation. In that context, Chris' analysis and especially the streams like critical masculinity gives us a more chance to understand who we are and what should we do in this future, in this moment. Thank you very much, Chris Haywood. We'll see you in another interesting program to develop our understanding about what is masculinity and how this research helps us to develop our nations and the society.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Manoj.